live of Deep Look Election Day special. 12-hour live stream starts right now as we watch the results come in from around the no, we're not going to do that. Alongside Keith Rayner, I am Charlie Eisenhood. It is Election Day. Keith, have you voted?
I have not. Election day means that my daycare is closed, so my wife and I are trying to tag team childcare for the day while also getting our work done. So haven't had a chance to yet. I also, as you know, Charlie, my car battery doesn't work. I also have not been able to address that right now. So we're down not just one car, but two cars in my family because everybody else was in an auto accident last weekend or something. So there's a car on load. It's chaos.
I had the car battery die on me recently. It's very annoying. Um, I did see. I think Uber and Lyft will give you 50% off a ride to your polling station. So I'm hoping that you will still vote. You're gonna vote, yes?
I am intending to vote yes. There's
Okay,
fully
very
the
good.
plan to vote.
Okay. Keith, if you can update your audio settings so that your correct microphone is selected, that would be fantastic. We have a great show for you today. We're very excited to be joined today by national champion Nathan Skunk Champoux of Hybrid. Skunk, really glad to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us here on Deep Look.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So what a year it's been for you. Winning a world championship, winning a national championship, lots of dubs right and left. What was it like on this run through nationals with Hybrid? And kind of a dominant performance from you guys from the start of the tournament to the finish.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool and interesting to see how it's been a little different this year in that I feel like we're a lot more prepared this year. We did a lot more matchup. We do a film beforehand, but this time we had like our Airbnb together and we just like go home, watch film for the next game, just play defense with that in mind, and it actually really worked well.
Oh, Keith has just straight lost his audio right now. So I got it for the moment. As Keith, we're dealing with all kinds of tech issues today. I don't know what's going on. We will get it sorted. So I want to kind of like jump back to the bracket. And actually, really, let's go back to the season itself because you all had a great season. You've been a great team for multiple years now. But you'd taken some losses. BFG was sort of the presumed favorite, although you had split games with them during the year. How did you all feel coming into the event? Did you think of yourselves as the front runners, or did you think that it was still BFG or another team?
I mean, Nationals is just where you go to compete and play against the best, and it's fun to assume that you are a good team, and like everyone has confidence in ourselves, and like we had confidence that we could win. You just have to be really lucky to go into Nationals, and it's lucky for me that I have good teammates.
All right. So, Keith, you want to give it a shot real quick? Yeah, just completely cooked audio right now. Keith, you maybe just want to reconnect and make sure that you select the appropriate audio on the way in. So for now, Skunk, it's you and me. Keith will get it figured out.
Chat.
So when did you have a sense that you all were playing great Ultimate and that you felt confident that you could win the tournament? Was it from the beginning? Did it take until you got into the bracket? When was that for you?
I mean, ever since the start of the season, we knew we could play great Ultimate. I think going into Nationals, we sometimes play with energy high and low, and I think we were really consistent with our energy going into the bracket. And then playing against Disco Club was really a good test for that. I mean, a test for them, a test for us. And I think we were able to have consistency even in our depth at that level. And when we were like putting in like at this point we have like X line, Y line for defense. And when both lines were scoring and getting breaks, it was really like at that point it was like, okay, we're on a good trend. Our offense is only playing like 9 points a game. This is great. And they were also doing really well. I think once our offense was playing pretty like consistent, and they weren't turning, and like everyone is doing so well on offense. Mark and Rachel and John Mast and LG, everyone is just like doing really well on offense, and then on defense it's just like we just have to put it in, and we knew we were going to put it in. And it's funny actually for hybrid. I think sometimes in the past, especially, we would take not getting a break worse than getting broken. So like if we were on defense and we didn't get a break, it would be like, oh my goodness, we lost our chance. Like that was it. Then offense is like, oh, kind of whatever happens. But this year it was like we had confidence that our offense was always going to hold, and then defense was just rolling.
All right, I'm gonna try again. Can you? Is my audio coming through this time?
It's coming
Okay.
through. It sounds terrible, but it's coming through. So
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know why it won't connect with my microphone right now. So I don't know. But I remember hearing that your D line and your offense like felt like basically that's the best test that you get all year. So it's like really in practice. I mean, who's getting the better of who at practice, and did you really feel like that by the time the tournament ended?
I mean, yeah, practice is always a chance to test our mettle, and defensively, it's perhaps unfair because we played our offense so long or so many times. We kind of know what they want to do. But same for our offense. They kind of know how I like to squirrel around and go for crazy random things. And so then they'll just be like, okay, if you're being guarded by Skunk, just wait until he runs away from you. Um, but no, I think there were a lot of good offenses, especially like Dragon. Like they're very talented. They had really good depth, and I think having a good play style going into against them of like pushing the MMPs deep and the FMPs under, and just holding on to that was really helpful. Just being able to play defense and offense with a plan in mind was unique sometimes.
What did you see was your job for hybrid?
Mm. It would change per game. Sometimes it was okay. They have one good player. Like your sole focus is on this one singular player to cause like just shut them down. Sometimes it would be okay. Your goal is to cause chaos. Maybe be put on the not as good players, but then just guard the deep space or like guard all of the force. That sounds. I can't guard all the force, but like guarding a swath of territory perhaps instead, or helping FMPs deep more often, or really whatever it was. But usually, I see myself as a force of chaos, and just chaos favors the defense. So I just did whatever.
What I know that I remember hearing you on the sidelines during that Dragon game talking to one of the Suflo twins, and you're like, I didn't even play in college. I wish that I had. I mean, without that kind of background, like you don't have the same ultimate background that so many high level players do. How do you feel like that has informed your experience in becoming the elite level player that you've become?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be better at throwing hucks if I played college because you probably practice that a lot more. Uh, I don't think, for instance, like a lot of my teammates from U of M, like from Magnum or Flywheel, they're very consistent. Their around throws are very consistent. They're able to get off the force side very consistently, and their touches are very consistent. Even like the college age. So being able to have more consistency, I think, would have helped my game a lot. But instead, my college, so to speak, was Detroit Mechanics, and that was more of I got a brilliant piece of advice, which was the point of the defense is to get scored on. And so I just was like, well, then if that's the point, we can do whatever we want.
Um, what if you could only have one? Would you take your national championship this year or the world championship that you won with the USA national team?
Uh, I mean, I think this is common answer, but nationals for sure, because that's a more season long, year long, and like the relationships and like people on that team. I think making the world's team is huge. I felt like that was perhaps this is being belittling to other countries, but in a sense, it feels like okay, here's your like you made the team, here's a gold medal, like almost in just the getting through tryouts. But club's really hard. It's a journey, and so that I think rings a little stronger for me.
You get some of the toughest defensive assignments in the entire division, in any division. Who's some of the toughest covers for you? Who's somebody who gave you trouble at nationals or any time during the season this year?
Um, I don't really see them as giving trouble as much as more fun. Travis Dunn was a lot of fun. Uh, Bivon was so much fun. I was guarding him on like a strike upline cut, and I was like, whatever the opposite of face guarding is, like back, like I didn't really like see him, but I like stopped a strike, dropped like a break side that stopped a strike, and then like he cleared out, and he was like, good defense. I was like, oh, you like say that mid game to me. That was so nice of him. Bivon's a really nice guy. Uh, I don't mean like I'm blanking on anyone else at this point. Tanner, wait, Tanner was so much fun. Tanner was also a ton of like he would just go deep all the time. If he dumped the disc, he would like sprint deep, and it's like okay, it's a race. Then he would come under, get the disc, and he was just running all the time. A lot of fun matchups.
I want to talk about that Tanner matchup because obviously you all had a great game plan for Sprocket. What was the game plan? Like when you all were planning for like how you wanted to approach that game, you have an overnight to think about it and get prepared. Sprocket kind of a
Yeah.
surprise team to be in the finals, and they had looked amazing to that point, and then you really took their offense out of their game. Do you think that that was individual matchup focus, like you playing against Tanner? Was that a team scheme? Like, what was the plan, and why did you think it worked so well?
Yeah, I think against Dragon that it was more of a team scheme, like I mentioned earlier. But I think against Rocket, we didn't know as much except like Tanner is Tanner and is a very, very good player. And him throwing, him receiving, it was. I think in general, I was trying to push him out to not get the disc, and I think that was a helpful like tactical adjustment for us. But it was mostly like I could trust my teammates to shut down their matchups, and then I could just have fun playing with Tanner. I love Tanner. We played U20s together, and he's like such a cool guy. And he just makes me laugh and smile every time I see him. But playing against him was a ton of fun too.
Hybrid has had a really successful past 3 or 4 years, right? The team kind of came from nowhere to, I know it wasn't actually a new team; it was kind of a reformation of an old team, but it felt like a new team in this era of hybrid. What do you attribute the program's success to over these past few years that's pushed you to such heights right now?
There's so many people I could attribute it to. I mean, I think first and foremost, Bailey Besser. She was one of the original like founders, and she's been with the team like ever since, essentially, and helped coach this year. And like even like in that 2022, the whole point of the year, or was it 2020? I forget. The whole point was like kind of surrounding around building the team off of her, actually, in a sense. And then it was like, okay, who works best with her? And like the high five guys, Dan D, James Highsmith, Mike Dagger, just so many of them pouring into that was really helpful. In an odd way, it was helpful to have the foreclosure of High Five because then a lot of that talent joined to Hybrid. Also, we've got a lot of young players, a lot of people in my year, but also like U of M University of Michigan is a really nice place to steal talent from and actually getting buy-in from them because before it was maybe more of like a maybe some would play with one team, some would play with another team, and it wasn't really bought in. And then I think getting people like Theo Shapinski and James Hill invested early, like James coming in early brought a lot of people, and Kat McGuire, she is insane. So having her join, there's just so many people.
Can this team start a little dynasty? I mean, I look at the score lines, and I know it's hard to do that in Ultimate at this point, but you didn't really have any serious tests. Your closest win was by 3 over Austin. You crushed everybody in the bracket, and you have a lot of talent on your team, and often winning a national championship helps bring in a little bit more sometimes. So do you feel like you can make this a 2 or 3 year run at the top of the division?
I mean, that's highly dependent on a lot of other teams too. Like if other places want to really invest more into their mixed scene, then that can cause a big chaos. Can we be a dynasty? I don't envision us being irrelevant for the next couple of years. I think the next couple of years for sure that we're going to be a team that any team, and that's kind of the awesome thing about playing with hybrid is we're a team that can beat any team. Unfortunately, sometimes we're a team that can get beaten by a more wider variety of skill level. But I think there's, especially with Mark, he's been captaining. We got a lot of younger captains this year too. I think this can be a good dynasty.
I'm curious for your thoughts here. We know the mixed division for being a division with chaos, and sometimes I wonder if that's overblown and how much of it is real that we really see so many upsets or unpredictable results. But it does feel like every year there are low seeds. Sometimes they have been hybrid in a couple of cases, advancing deep into the bracket. You see hybrid versus Sprocket in the final. I don't think that was on a lot of bingo cards coming in. What do you see that makes it feel like on any given day, any of these teams can beat any team from the top seeds to the bottom?
Uh, I I think some of it is interesting to see also the disparity in. So, for instance, if a certain player or certain players don't make certain tournaments, that can cause a lot of variety. Because essentially, you have like half a normal rostered amount of like men, and then you have like half a women's division roster of women. That's kind of like a if you lose like two FMPs, for instance, that's like you only have a few people left. So I think it can cause more variety depending on who's there. For instance, also for us too, it was really sad talking about FMPs who aren't able to play. Rachel Mass not being able to play in the semis and finals because she hurt her shoulder was really sad. But like something like that, also if it's a team that's maybe not as deep, can really impact them. But if I can go on for a short story for Rachel, I realized throughout that too, actually, that she's probably one of our most competitive players. And like the drive within her was like actually really motivated me and like I think a lot of people on our team to actually play really well. And a lot of us too going into the finals was like we're not losing for a second time or third time. We're not getting second for a third time, and that helped us a lot. Sorry to tangent off a bit, but
No, that's totally fine. Um, you won Defensive Player of the Year in 2022. You were a runner up in 2021. Um, you've been a top name in the division, and particularly as a defender for a few years now. And then I think you making the national team really speaks to the quality of the defense that you brought. Has this been something that you've been just great at since you were on the 2016 U20 team? Like back when you were in high school, or has this been something that you've kind of developed as a player over time, if that makes sense?
not sure how to answer this without sounding braggadocious, perhaps.
We want you to be
I mean,
braggadocious. That's why I asked the question.
I mean, honestly, I think God's blessed me with a lot of physical talents, and playing defense, you're not really, as long as you have like more innate intuition, and I think I have a little bit of like instinct that kicks in of like, oh, I think this is going to happen, and I run and trust that a lot. That was very helpful even at a young age, and being quick and fast has been helpful. I think I have developed it slowly, and even like talking to Caleb Denacor a while ago, he was like, "Man, you've grown a lot since like that first World Games like tryout a couple of years back." And I was like, "Oh, thanks. I don't really know where the growth is coming from, but just showing up, playing with friends has been perhaps. I guess you get better when you just play more Ultimate."
All right, so we've established we missed out on College Ultimate. I'm curious. We're getting Charlie and I are actually going to talk a little College Ultimate later in this podcast. If you got to just have your pick of the litter, you get to play anywhere, any school, you get the free ride or whatever. Where would you go play? Who would you go play with?
Currently or back then?
Give me both. If they're different, let's hear both.
My teammate Mark Witten would tell me that he's told me perhaps once every 3 months of how much he wishes he would have played with me at Michigan State back then, or sorry, at Grand Valley actually, Grand Valley State University. Where I don't know. Probably, honestly, I don't think I would have played it again just because I'm a physical therapist and PT school is really tough, and I don't think I could have played during that. Um, I don't know, probably with some of my U20 teammates or at University of Michigan would have been cool. Uh, or okay, here's a hot take: Michigan Tech. There's a D3 north, like in the UP and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Yeah.
That would have been fun. I would have played with Brendan McCann, and D3 would be fun.
D3
If you
represent.
had been on
35
that
Runner Club.
team, Michigan Tech wins the national championship. I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident. That would have been crazy. So when you think about like player development and helping teammates get better and stuff and talking about defense, I think it'd be cool. I think if there's a lot of people who are going to be watching who look up to players like you and say, wow, I really wish I could play defense like that. What are some of the things that you tell teammates that try to help them get better at playing defense? Like what makes a defender better besides, just basic athleticism and training in the gym and things like that?
Yeah. I think I'm perhaps not the best person to ask just because I do a lot of instinctual. I watch a lot of film, and that kind of helps me understand the flow of a game. And then I understand how people think, and actually even like how people. I actually focus a little bit more on people and their personality themselves and their relationships with their teammates, actually quite a bit, which I don't think a lot of people think about. But for instance, oh, these two people trust each other a lot, and then like they're going to throw it to each other, even if the person's pretty close on them, and then I can take advantage of their trust sometimes. But player development is what you're talking about more. For defense, it's pretty tough. For me, I watched a lot of like Johnny Bansfield. He went to the same school as I did growing up, but he was like a couple years higher than me. Watching how Johnny plays, I know a lot of elite players do that as well. It's kind of exciting. I perhaps have been modeled after that as well. But a lot of times, what happens with my teammates, and sometimes they get frustrated with this though, because I'll do something crazy, and then I leave my person, and then they're kind of on cleanup crew. So it's interesting because not everyone can play like that, and a lot of people actually need to play as like, how can I see my teammate? How can I force my person into where my teammate's at? And then how can I be aware of them looking back at me? And like, for me personally, seeing where my teammates are is much more important than seeing where the opposition is on the field.
It's funny that you made note of Mansfield there because I feel like he has some of those same characteristics of like taking chances as a defender, being super unpredictable, and sometimes he catches the offense off guard, and sometimes he catches his own teammates off guard. And I definitely see some of that in your play. I'm curious for more information about that risk taking element and kind of doing your own thing in a way. How do you build a relationship with your teammates to like get that kind of trust and to communicate and to make sure that you are able to do the things that you want to be able to do on the field, but still play what your teammates need from you? How do you go through that process?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I am a bit of a taker in that, a bit selfish with that, because when you see like an opportunity of like, oh, maybe I can poach off and do this, or maybe I can like take advantage of this, and it works, you get all the credit and all the glory. When it doesn't work, and then your teammate or your person is running deep, and then your teammate is like dragging behind them, and then they get scored on, and then they look terrible, and like you're like, oh, I'm all the way over there. So it's kind of like honestly, it's a deeper relationship even off the field that you have to do that kind of. And thankfully, I have a lot of teammates who are very supportive of me in that. And so when I like do cool things or whatever, like get blocks in places I shouldn't be at, like a lot of that is I can do that because I trust that, oh, I can go under for this poach because I know Stout, like Adam Stoutberg, has my back, or he's got the break side, or Jimbo James Hill is like in the deep space, so I can just go wherever I want because no one's going to huck it if he's back there. So it takes a lot of trust and also knowing when you can do that, when you have that bandwidth, is what we like to call it.
It's a good thing. Good thing
What was your
the defense's job is to get scored on, so you have some leeway.
Yeah, exactly.
what was your Worlds experience like from, making the team and, you
Mm,
know, going to Australia, competing over there? Obviously, the team absolutely dominated. Um, so
yeah.
just, to summarize your time.
I mean, kind of like a big vacation with a whole bunch of new friends, is is a way to say it, I think. And my fiance was able to go as well, which was really cool. And so I got to see kangaroos, koalas, and wallabies with her and with a lot of other teammates and such. Uh, I mean, I say it like that, and there is like some kind of vacation aspect to it, but uh, having a singular focus of like, oh, our goal is to like win and dominate and just play frisbee together, and it is more relational than I think most people think. Like yeah, like good players have chemistry with each other, but then also being like, oh wow, Rafi Hayes catches every frisbee, I can just do whatever and he'll float in the air and catch it wherever. Or like, oh, like Saul Yannick will throw it to any part of the break side, uh, and like developing that trust, and knowing which, actually, this is a big thing. Knowing your role is huge, especially for the men's side. I think finding and being able to like be like, this is where my role is. I get blocks on the turn. I don't really do anything. That was for me personally more so. Or I'm the continue after Nate Goff is the continuation, and then maybe I catch it in the end zone. Or like just knowing where your role is was really helpful. And then trusting that your teammates also know their role, and that together the coaches have placed all those roles into perfect like combination for it to be successful is really cool.
I I think about I was listening to Pod Practice, and Quinn Finder was talking about his experience in Australia, and he talked about the wind and the conditions. He talked about how hard it is to get there, how what a challenge, and it takes so much time and obviously money to get to Australia. And then you get there, and like in some ways, like obviously he doesn't regret the experience. It was a lot of fun, but it was a little disappointing that they didn't get more competition necessarily on the field. Did you walk away with that same sort of feeling, or was it mostly focused on other things?
A little bit. I felt a little bit bad for the. I don't want to. This sounds like I'm bashing other countries, but like it was an awesome experience. It was great to play. I felt sometimes though for like the finals, if it's 15-4, that's not as fun of an experience for viewers. I think like the women's game was awesome to watch, and like I was right there in person. That was one of the highlights of the whole tournament, was watching the women's final. Um, uh, but yeah, I felt a little bit bad for the viewers. I also feel like people might think that other teams or other countries are bad at frisbee, which I don't think is true. I think we just were really talented at defense, and that was able to make a lot of waves. Uh, yeah.
Um, I'm wondering why the Detroit Mechanics are so awful. Can you help me understand? You've played 2 seasons with the team back in the day. It's been a few years now. But they just won their first game in what, like 7 years. They're the laughing stock. They're so bad they get national media, which is like this bizarro world for the UFA to actually. The way for the UFA to get noticed by big media is to have a team so bad that it's interesting. So why are they so bad?
I mean, I think Michigan doesn't have a lot of inherent talent for Frisbee. Like, other coasts are better. But how can I say that yet also hybrid won nationals and mixed? I think it's based off of a couple things. The owner, Brent, big fan of Brent. He's a great like an athletic trainer, and like if you have any injury, he's really helpful to fix it. I've been actually doing even some of his sports training stuff for like physical fitness, and that's been awesome for me personally. But I think sometimes getting like congregating all the talent is really tough, because now they're on the west side of the state, and that's where none of the ultimate players really are. Well, there definitely are ultimate players on the west side of the state, but I think like hybrids based off the east side, and I think Brent's also more focusing on sustainability with like, oh, how are we able to like have a that has uh, can sell like things and like viewers and audience members. I think that's a little bit more important as a business person, and that makes sense. I also don't know. I don't know necessarily the specifics for the mechanics. I have been kind of away for a bit, but there is definitely some disjointedness between the club teams and uh, the professional scene. It kind of goes like high school, DMX club, no, college club. So it's kind of interesting seeing
Hybrid.
how that plays. Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, hybrid. How that plays out differently in the club versus UPA.
Yeah. So what's next for you? Are you going to be trying out for World Games?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I actually talked with my fiance yesterday night about it. So I'm doing my own Triple Crown tour. I'm getting married in a month. So I'm
Congrats.
really excited that I'll thank you. That is definitely going to be the major highlight of the year. I feel way too blessed to be able to have all this in one year. I'm sure perhaps once I have a kid, I'll say that's the best year of my life. But right now, this is I feel very privileged to have this year in my life. I was talking with her more, and I actually like seeing what I value in life is going to be pretty important. This is perhaps more philosophical or theological than this podcast maybe is used to, but being like, do I want to spend my time doing Frisbee, or do I want to invest it in like a first year of marriage? Do I want to invest in like something that will last longer for like my whole life, or even longer than my whole life? Like, do I want to work in more like investment with my church and for more ministry suited purposes? And will playing World Games be more valuable than that? I also don't even think I'd really make the team because I'm too pointed towards like defense and World Games. I know Maddie's saying likes more rounded players, and I think I'm a little too spiky for that. Don't quite have the consistency, I think, and so it's like, so yeah, that's something I've been praying about and thinking about more. So I'm actually not sure, but it'd be fun. It'd be nice to see friends too.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see if we see you at tryouts. It's a lot of things to weigh, and everyone gets to the point in their life where Frisbee starts to take a little bit more of a back seat. So if that's for you now, it's too soon. You're too good right now. You got to play some more. I think, and they take defensive specialists every time on the World Games team. Ryan Farrell made the team.
We'll see. He did. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, he did. 2013, I think. All right. What's your preferred nickname? Nathan Clampo or Nathan National Champoux?
Like clamp. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard. Well, as long as it's not shampoo, like like conditioner and shampoo, I'm honestly okay with it. So clampo, that sounds like fun, but honestly, I'm not someone who clamps people. I kind of fritter away to where the disc is at.
All right, so Nathan National Champo it is. Hey, we really appreciate you
Okay.
coming on the pod. Champoach. Wow. Our producer Lindsay Sue coming through
Oh,
in the
that's
chat.
clutch.
Nathan Champoach. Now we're talking.
Sure.
Love that.
All right. Well, hey, Nathan, thank you so much. Congratulations once again on a hybrid championship, and
Thank
best of
you.
luck with the rest with your wedding, and then whatever you
Yeah.
decide to get into next year in the Frisbee field.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Nathan Champoux, aka Skunk, with us here on Deep Look. We're gonna take a quick break. On the other side, we got a bunch of stuff: mailbag, trivia, college talk, lots more. Stay with us. It's Deep Look.
Hey, this is Antoine Davis. You take the field with basically two things: yourself and your cleats. That's why you need the best on your feet.
For me, I want grip to handle my change of direction and stick with my person on defense. I want my cleat to be light to help me play long points and accelerate to get to my top speed. That's why I love my Toe K cleats. They're specifically designed for ultimate, with a cleat pattern for the game's sharp cuts and a durable, breathable, supportive build to keep your feet and ankles protected and comfortable for longer. That's why I've been using them for 3 years. They're my best ally on the field. You put your best self on the field, so make sure you're bringing the best with you at tokay-ultimate.com. That's TOKAY-ultimate.com. Tokay, sky the limits.
Heads up, Breakmark now has sublimated 5-panel hat. You can get the hat and their famous reversible free with the purchase of one of their 3-piece team bundles, starting at just $85. Get all the details at breakmark.com.
All right, welcome back to Deep Look. It's time for you to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you don't already, as we continue to push past 100,000 YouTube subscribers. We appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for being with us here every Tuesday at noon Eastern. Keith, it's time for our trivia question of the week. Oh, Keith, either you're muted or the mic is cooked. We got absolutely nothing from you right now. Yeah, you're just talking and there's nothing.
All right, how about
There we go. We got
okay?
you.
Yeah, it's when I try and I'm trying to fix the mic in real time during the break, and it didn't work. And it backfired. Okay,
Appreciate the effort. It's all good.
unique trivia question this week. We're gonna do a new one here. This was something that actually came up when we were looking back at I think I mentioned there were some crazy team names that I discovered in our archive, Steve Sullivan archive of Nationals teams. So Charlie, I've prepared a list of 10 national club team names. Some of them are not real. Some of them are fictional that I've designed on my own in my own mind. You
Okay,
have to
this is
spot the fake names.
this is specifically teams that have qualified for nationals, or it's the
They've only been to
universe.
club nationals.
Oh,
They've
club
only been to club
nationals.
nationals. So
Okay.
I will not. There are no teams from. I'm not going to pull some random sectional level team that played 1 year. These are only names of teams that have qualified for the national championships. In
I'm still going to get them
USA
all
or
right either way, so no worries.
there are. I'm not even sure. Should I even tell you how many are fake? I'm not going to. I'm not going.
No,
to.
no.
You can have
I'll play on hard mode.
Okay. So we got 10 names. I think producer Sue has them queued for you. So we're gonna go in with 10 team names, folks. We're trying to spot the fakes here. Okay. Your team names: Booty Quake, Public Defenders.
Wait, am I doing it one? I want to do one at a time.
All right, we'll
I
do
don't
one at
want
a
to try to
time. Okay,
remember them
Booty
all in
Quake.
my mind.
Yeah,
Booty
fair.
Quake.
Is Booty Quake a real or fake team name?
That's a real name.
Ding ding. That is in fact a real name. Shout out
Let me see if I can guess
Birmingham.
the city.
Booty Quake.
Oh, you just said it. Okay.
I said it. I didn't know you were going for that. I'll let you get to the next one.
I'll play extra hard mode. I just know I'll just guess, but
So that was Birmingham Booty Quake. Next up, Public Defenders.
that feels fake.
Charlie, you've successfully navigated the first two. You spotted a fake. Spotted a fake. All right. Hopefully you at home did not fall for that. I made that one up. All right. Next one. Mind Erasers. Or no, I guess Chewbacca Defense. We're doing Chewbacca Defense.
Chewbacca defense. It's so bad. It's got to be real.
It is in fact real. I love the logic that you got there with. I'm trying to remember.
Chewbacca defense.
That's a team from Austin, the mixed team from Austin, that qualified for nationals twice in the early 2000s, the early aughts. So
Okay.
Chewbacca defense. All right, what's next? Drive-through liquor.
Oh man, that's a good one. That really could go either way. I'm gonna say it's real.
Charlie's on fire right now. Drive-through liquor. Where do you think they're from?
Oh my gosh. Houston.
I guess that's not that far off. It's Fort Collins.
That's pretty far off. Okay, Fort Collins.
You're in the same region.
This is shame before there was shame.
It probably was.
Okay,
All right,
what's
on
next?
to our next one. Dishonorably discharged or discharged.
Oh god.
like
Again, it's this one's bad, but like in a way that feels like it's trying to be bad. So I'm gonna say it's fake.
Charlie, you did it again. Charlie spotted
Wow.
the fake. Not a real team. Not a real team.
Am I gonna go 100% here? How many more we got?
You're on the right track. You're on the right track. Next up for our audio only listeners, farts, but with two A's for some reason.
I'm gonna say it's real and are an Ann Arbor team, and that's why there's two A's.
We finally got him, folks.
No,
We made that one up. There's no fart.
That feels like a real
Took a
one.
long time,
really
but I got him. I thought the two A's might get you.
You
Okay,
did. It did.
on to
It
our
got
next
me.
one. The next one, first time Gary.
100% real. That's got to be real.
It is real. Any place that you could assign first time Gary?
Gary, Indiana. Why not?
I had a feeling you were going to say that, but it's actually Boston. If anybody knows the story, Tony Leonardo, pull up real quick or something. Let us know. What you got next for us, producer Sue?
Just beer.
Beer. Team name is just beer.
Fake.
It is a real team.
Wow.
You want to guess from where? From whence this one came?
Portland.
Fair guess. But it's back to Colorado. Those Colorado teams have you fooled. This one, Boulder Beer qualified in the men's division, 96.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely no idea on that one. Okay. Are there any more?
I think we got two more. I don't know how Chewbacca
Mr.
defense does these well.
Briefcase.
Next up, Mr. Briefcase.
Fake.
Mr. Briefcase is real. It's a real
Damn.
team. You
I'm
want to
slowing
go for your
down.
hard mode location guess?
Mr. Briefcase? Oh God.
Could be anywhere, right?
Chicago.
Wow, sniped. It is in fact Chicago.
Let's go.
I don't know
That's
how
the
you
kind
did
of
that.
that's the kind of place that would name a team Mr. Briefcase.
All right, last one.
Briefcase. Also, that has to be from the 90s because not a thing anymore.
The last one,
Frisbens.
Frisbins.
Fake.
Could be a Masters team, but we're not doing Master teams right now, so it is in fact a fake. That's pretty good, Chuck. You did pretty well.
Well, Joe Marmerstein hit me in the chat with a "if only Charlie could pick Nationals winners with the same accuracy." He's
Charlie
he's
had
been talking that trash.
fair, which when you win the chip, you get to talk the trash. But I will say Charlie was like 91st percentile on the Beat Charlie challenge, so I'll defend my guy over here briefly.
Yeah, I'm trying to go that perfect year, but still hunting for it. Or just beating everyone else and having no one beat me.
Yeah.
That would be pretty awesome.
Which would you rather? Would you rather finish perfect but you're tied with somebody else who finished perfect, or you rather finish first but you're not perfect?
Probably perfect. That would be quite
I
the
think so, too.
achievement.
I think that's right.
All right. Well, hey, that's great fun. We got to do college team names at some point.
Oof, that'll be hard.
It's time to get to a segment we haven't done in a while, like a long while. We're going to play some small ball right now. And we're talking college ultimate. Keith, take it away on some small ball.
Well, where do we want to start? I guess we'll start with tweeting at us. We got some at UltiWorld tags from college teams, which usually isn't a good thing, but just some Southeast teams want to be recognized for the work they were putting in at what I think was called Feasterns, where Emory beat UNC in the men's division. I don't know. I'm guessing that Darkside was missing their U24 contingent, which I imagine was at East Coast tryouts. But we've seen a bit of some. There were some interesting results earlier in the year, I think, with Elon giving some run to UNC. So maybe I don't know if UNC's top players, they still have Dameron. If some of those guys are not running yet, but whatever it is, Emory's sure excited about the results. Just for note, I believe UNC Wilmington Seamen ended up taking down that tournament and beating UVA in the finals. So, a little college news. Would any of this worry you about UNC?
Not on a weekend where they're missing their U24 tryouts players. I mean, I think that I'm already expecting UNC to be one of the pack instead of like the dominant favorite as they have been many years. So do I think they're losing to Emory in the spring at full strength? No. But I think it says more about Emory than it does about UNC. I think we should be watching for Emory to have a good year potentially.
I just looked it up. So there were some notes that Elon, I think, beat UNC or lost to UNC 13-11 like a month ago. Hard to know what those, that's still during club season. Might not have the club players on UNC, but and Elon actually did pretty well at that tournament. But just some notes to make. But I'm with you. I'm not putting much stock in, especially early fall results. We've also seen Emory get some wins during the fall. I've seen them beat Pitt at CCC. Like it's not that uncommon for them to go out and get an upset. So again, I'm not putting too much stock in this, but it could be a good sign for Emory, a team that we've seen buzz around the national sphere for a few different years. Other results, we had FE coming in this past weekend. Purdue getting the win in the men's division. I think they went undefeated. They had some close games in the bracket, but they beat Oklahoma Christian in the final 13-8. Obviously, a good result for OC to be getting that deep into the bracket. And in the women's division, Carleton getting the win over Wisconsin in the final of that division. Worth noting, Eclipse also make it to the semifinals. in that division. Shout out to the 7,500 club. So interesting result. That was a pretty close game. That Wisconsin generally looked good. It seemed like there were some good reports about how Belladonna's looking early in the year, and obviously it's a star-studded Carleton team with the players that they have returning this year. So there's your little college update from what we've got going on so far, and then we have some tournaments to talk about moving forward.
Keith, before we go anywhere else, please let this be the year that Belladonna really gets it together and I can believe in this team. I feel like I've been wanting to believe in this team for many years, and they continue not to earn a bid, and they're simply not going to beat Carleton at regionals. It's not going to happen. So this is got to be the year. They're going to go out there. They're going to earn a bid. They're going to be one of the top teams. North Central back to new heights. I feel it. I feel it. They got to pick up for the Hodags, who are no longer a nationals caliber program. Ouch.
Remember when North Central was like one of the most dominant regions in all of college ultimate? You know, we're a long way from 5 bid North Central days. But Wisconsin, Belladonna's has had some up years. It just haven't been consistent enough. Between them and Minnesota, they just have not been able to pull it together and get that second bid. So you're right that the regular season's got to be the point where their focus is drawn to. Because beating Carlton's kind of out of the question.
It's a tall task. Real quick before we go on, I just want to acknowledge this from the chat. Thomas North pointing out first time Gary had Hall of Famers Steve Mooney and Jay Seeger on the team. It was a spinoff of Titanic, named after Gary Lipman. Eventually, they would form a part of Death or Glory, aka Dog, one of the most dominant teams in Club Ultimate history. Nice little fact from the chat. How about that?
There you go. And there's also a Mr. Briefcase reference in the chat. So people are hyping up the old school teams.
We also have maybe
we see some reduxes.
Yeah. We also have some good mailbag questions to get to in a little bit. We do have some things to look forward to coming up, like this weekend's Classic City Classic. It is the biggest fall tournament of the year. It's certainly a bigger deal in the men's division, but the women's division is still interesting if you're watching those Southeast teams. And hey, Vermont making the trip this year in the women's division. Okay. That will be fun. They'll be the heavy favorites for sure. CCC on the men's side this year is as stacked as we've ever seen it. Colorado Mama Bird making the trip, including all basically of the top East Coast powerhouse programs. It's going to be a blast. Let's take a look at the pools. You take a look over there on the left, men's pools: Brown, North Carolina State, Michigan, Georgia Tech. Pool B is Colorado, Vermont, UAH, and UNC Wilmington. Pool C is UNC, Texas, Penn State, and Wisconsin. And Pool D is Georgia, Pitt, Carleton, and Texas A&M. When your bottom seed is like a knocking on the door at regionals team, that's a really good tournament. Over on the women's side, Vermont, Florida, Tennessee, and the B team from Emory, Georgia Tech, Texas, Emory, and Georgia B, and then Georgia, Central Florida, Georgia Tech B, and Florida B. So obviously not nearly as deep, but still some interesting competition there in the top of the Southeast, along with Texas and Vermont. Keith, what stands out?
Well, obviously it's fall seeding. You're not really going to put any stock into it, but I feel like I could all but guarantee that UNC Wilmington is not going to be the 14th place team. In fact, I would think they're going to be a threat to maybe reach semis, win this tournament in the men's division. I think they're vastly underseeded at 14. I'm definitely going to buy the stock early on UNC Wilmington. Will not be surprised if this is like around a top 10 team by the end of the college season. By the time we're getting ready for nationals, I would not be surprised if they're like truly in the upper crust. But when you look throughout the tournament, I would note West Coast U24 tryouts this weekend, so don't know if that's going to impact Colorado and Texas. If there'll be players missing from those teams. East Coast happened this past weekend, so I expect most of the East Coast teams to have their full complement. You never know where some other players may have traveled to or from or whatnot. So I don't know what that'll mean for those teams, but that'll be at play. And still, you really want to get a sense of who these teams are. And the women's division, which has been a regional event, since the glory days. Back in the day, it used to be a pretty much as good as the men's division. You'd still get multiple teams that were gonna go to nationals and contend for semifinals. That's kind of faded away. It's basically just been Southeast teams for most of the past few years. So nice for them to get some guests in Vermont and Texas. Should add some spice to the tournament and help us measure where the Southeast is at.
Yeah. Just quick note. There are a number of Colorado players that are in the U24 tryout pool. Whether they're trying out in the West Coast tournament, I would assume, but it's possible that some of them went to East. Toby Brooks and Nanda Min Fink, Ryan Shigley, and Zeke Thorson are all Mama Bird players on the U24 tryout list. So, yes, like that's probably going to impact them a lot more than any of these East Coast teams that already had the East Coast tryout this past weekend. I'm just really excited because it feels like the top of the division is a little bit open this year. I mean, we're starting to see some of the sixth years phasing out. We're seeing a lot of turnover after a year in 2023, or I guess, at the beginning of this year, so 2024, right? We had a lot of teams returning all of their key players. Like that was the big storyline, is that everybody was coming back. And that's not true now. Like teams are losing their big heavy hitters and they're going to be passing the baton to younger players. So who is even the favorite, right? Brown comes in as the 1 seed, but there's no way that they're going to win this tournament. I shouldn't say there's no way, but like they are going to take a big
there's
step
no
back.
way.
There's probably no way.
I'll say it. There's no way.
And so, like with Colorado missing people, maybe UNC's the favorite then, but Georgia is going to have home field advantage and a big chip on their shoulder after they, are kind of getting snubbed for, various things, U24s. And like, I feel like they probably feel like this is a great opportunity for them to not only win this tournament, but to have a huge year. Pitt's still going to be really good. Carleton has an amazing recruiting class. Like, what are they going to look like? I'm just excited because I feel like you can kind of like talk about teams all the way down the board at CCC and feel like there's something to be excited about or interested in. And so this is really the test for these teams before we get into the competitive season.
Yeah, I mean, we could draw. I could draw up so many storylines from these teams, whether it's seeing the Carleton recruiting class, seeing Mark Henke and Texas A&M, if he's not a U24 tryouts, Penn State, where are they going to be? Because there was a lot of hype about this year's Penn State team last year. Also, are we going to get the Sam Grossberg Bowl? Are we going to get Georgia Tech versus Penn State? The battle for Sam Grossberg's loyalties. We get the Grossberg brothers debut. You get Brown. Like, what's the new era of Brown look like? How does UAH follow up last year? I mean, there are tons of storylines to look at in the men's division. I'm curious where Georgia's going to be too in the women's division. Quincy Booth there, but Cashin's gone. Should they still be the clear favorites in the Southeast, or could we see UCF build on where they were last year, or can we finally see Georgia Tech or Florida overtake Georgia in a region they've been dominant in? I don't expect to answer a lot of questions about Vermont this weekend. I think they're good. I think it's hard for me to imagine them doing anything that would make us doubt that they are title contenders going into the spring at this tournament. So there's not much that I think we'll learn about Vermont, but I'm very curious about what teams performing against Vermont will tell us about themselves.
100%. It should be great. And hey, guess what? It's going to be live streamed on ultiworld.com. It's our lone college fall streaming of this year. We will have some of the women's games. They're not playing a traditional tournament. They're going to play pools and then power pools on day 2. So we will have some games from the women's division and 2 streams per round throughout the entire event. So it should be a great weekend of Ultimate. And you can follow along with everything with a standard or all access UltiWorld subscription at ultiworld.com/subscribe. So a chance to watch and get ready to go for what should be a really exciting college season coming up. This is kind of like the last big event before everybody shuts it down for the holiday season. and we get ready to go for the kickoff of the college season in earnest in January. Keith, do we have other small ball for college?
No, that's it.
Okay. We have our mailbag question of the week, but before we get to it, I want to quickly take a couple of questions from the chat because we had a couple college-based ones. Andrew asks, what place would Brownie in Motion and Pleiades finish if they could play at the World Masters Ultimate Championships next week? So let's assume for the sake of the argument that we're talking about last year's teams.
Yeah, that
Keith,
would be my assumption.
Where do you think they could finish at Masters?
Expect them to be semifinalists. I think
Yep.
semifinals is kind of like the bar for them. I think Pleiades would be a live team in the finals to win the thing. I don't know if they'd necessarily be the favorites, but maybe they'd be slight favorites, maybe they'd be slight dogs. But I think they're in the mix with the finals. But I think might run out of steam in that.
Yeah, I think it's easy to just be like, oh, they're such great teams. Like they would easily dominate these like Masters age players who haven't been training as much. But I think you are underestimating the quality at the top of like the Masters divisions. The teams at the very top are really good and might win games at club nationals. So I think it's definitely not at all. I would say the Brownie in Motion team would be an underdog in semis probably, but they would probably get to semis. They would probably be one of the best teams there. I think that Pleiades loses in finals. That would be my guess. There's just
We have
there's
very
the
similar
the
estimations.
top
here.
teams are really good. Like women's division, like the age cutoff being only 30 means that you have like straight up elite club players who are in the primes of their career on those teams. That's less the case on the men's side because the age limit is 33. Pretty big difference.
Yeah, it's probably time to push them up. Although there's not really any actual reason for USA Ultimate to do that, but
I think they should as soon as they feel like they can do it without harming the competitive, like having enough teams, right? You don't want to decimate the division.
and frankly, this is a division that's based on this is a purely player led division. Like like yeah, we're gonna stream stuff, but like this is not a division that we're like really should be focusing on spectators. So if the players feel like it's a problem and we should move the age limit, then we should do it. But if they don't, I don't see a reason to.
Speaking of World Masters, we're live streaming that tournament as well. It's coming next week. Our live streaming coverage begins on Wednesday, the November 13th, and continues through the finals on Friday the 15th and Saturday the 16th. I believe we'll be having every single final streamed from all of the divisions at the tournament, which is going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to have the, great grand, mega masters streaming. The 65-year-olds. No, it's not quite that, but it's getting close in some of those top end divisions. So we'll talk more about Masters next week on Deep Look. One more question
Legends
from the chat,
division.
and then
That's what you got to name it.
Legends. I think we've talked about that.
Yes,
George,
I think we gave up on the show.
George asks, what college team that didn't make the game to go is most likely to make nationals this year? Ooh. It didn't make the game
Now
to
I got to go back.
I know
I
you
got
got
to
to think
remember
about
who
who's
was
in the game to go.
I mean, did that question come up because I was talking about Wilmington? Were they in the game to go last year? I don't even remember anymore.
I genuinely don't know. How about A&M?
I mean, we just talked about it.
Were they in the game to go?
I don't think so. They
They
might
would
have
be
been
on my
though, 'cause
list
didn't they
too.
have 3 bids? They have 3 bids, right? Because they had
and
WashU.
WashU made it. Yep.
Yeah. But did they beat Texas A&M in the game to go? I don't even remember.
I'm gonna look it up.
I know. I got to bust out the spreadsheets to answer this one.
For real.
Or our article on Multi.
A&M lost in the game to go. So they are not my answer. It's a hard question because you have to like remember who was all in these games to go and whatnot. But um, did anybody bomb out early?
Wilmington.
David
I don't think
David in the
Wilmington was
chat
in the
says
game to go.
Georgia
So
Tech women.
Wilmington men's is definitely
There you go.
my lead answer.
David in the
Sure.
chat says Georgia Tech women's, who, by the way, were seated higher by Georgia at CCC, which kind of gives them front runner status for at least the preseason power rankings in the Southeast. So that seems like a good answer.
I will say there's a power vacuum in Metro East women's right now in the women's division. I do not feel confident that
NYU.
Krebs Bing and post Graf Yale are going to continue to rule the roost. So I would not be surprised to see a new champion. I think my early money will be on Cornell, but hard to say in that division. So it's hard to pull a team that we think will make it. Other teams that didn't make the it's tough answer.
We'll consider it more as we get into the college meat of the season. All right, it's time for our mailbag question of the week. Keith, take it away.
All right, this week's mailbag question of the week: what players most overperformed their Ultiworld player ranking in our top 25 club players, and which players most underperformed their ranking at nationals? This has been a question I've been considering because our staff has submitted or is in the process of submitting their ballots for our player awards. So this year is kind of a weird season. It feels like it's more nationals than ever because of worlds affecting the regular season. So like, I feel more off of where I was coming in than usual because I had less information from which to make my rankings.
So the question is overperformed and underperformed.
Yes.
All right, let me think about who underperformed. I got to go division by division. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to go division by division, but you can kind of look at the top.
The obvious. So I'm starting in the men's side. The obvious people to look at would be the Bravo guys, Finer and Atkins, Pod Practice taking the L. I don't feel like I saw enough Bravo to speak whether those guys had a bad tournament or if it was just team-based kind of offensive failure. Do you have thoughts on that, Keith?
I think it was more team-based than those players individually, but you would like this ranking is supposed to be of a player's ability to help lead you to a championship, and you would like those players to be able to dig you out of a hole when your teammates are playing well.
Sure.
You got two top 10 guys, and they couldn't pull it off. So I think it's hard to say that they lived up to those rankings, even if I didn't think either player was like individually poor at nationals. I'm obviously not going to count Joe White.
No, injuries don't count. Levka Walchak underperformed.
Yeah,
she
definitely
was unreal last season and just never really like brought it to the same level this year. I didn't think.
I fully agree. Levka Walchak is definitely my answer in the women's division. Most of the other players I feel like were pretty strong. I mean, I think it's because of how high the bar is set for Valeria and Manuela. I think they just looked run down at nationals. So
yeah, they did.
They were still good. They just weren't like incandescent. Like Claire Trope is going to be the runaway winner in Player of the Year for the women's division, and given that she finished third behind Madu and Valeria for our top 25, I think that's tells you what you need to know.
Yep. Looking at the mix side, I really don't feel like there's an obvious underperformance here. I thought the top players played well.
Interestingly enough,
maybe Sadie on BFG.
I think there were folks who were disappointed with the way Mex played. I don't know that I necessarily count myself among them, but when you're the number one ranked player, I think you're expected to be a little more of a force than what we saw from Mex, who was, I wouldn't say relegated to the D line, but that is going to limit your ability to like flex your offensive muscle in the game. And I didn't think was particularly sterling in the semifinals either. I think it was a little bit of a disappointing tournament for Mex because when you have someone at the number one, it's such a high bar to hit. So I think in some ways suffering from some of the same issues that you had mentioned with like Levka or in the men's division, Christian Boxley, who wasn't clearly a star player to me at nationals. Good player, but there are definitely players who I felt like had a much better nationals.
Overperformers. I'll stay in mix because I'm looking at the page. First and foremost, Tanner Johnson Go, who was 15th but played like a top 3 player in the division and took his team all the way to the finals. Fantastic performance from him. Aaron Bartlett down at 24. I mean, I know it's like easy to pick players who are on the finalists, but like still, Bartlett was awesome at nationals. I think that he looked like an easy top 10 guy. By the way, Keith, I did hear he was hurt and basically did not play at U24 tryouts, which is terrible news for him. Very unfortunate. I'm hoping the coaching staff still gives him a look because I feel like he should get a spot without even needing to try out the way we've seen him play the last couple seasons.
Yeah, unfortunate. I hope that he gets his chance. Although I don't know how I feel about if he can't play tryouts getting a spot. I don't know how I feel about that.
I get it. I get it. I send a tape in. I don't know. I think if you send in the tape, which they let you do, and he's going to be okay by the time U24s comes around, it would just be like a sad state of affairs if he wasn't able to play on the team.
Yeah. I think going back to the rankings in the mixed division, I think some of my compatriots who had Erica Bacon in total down at 38. I think they'd probably take that back after I think Bacon was quite good. So that's another one that was underrated in mixed. How about in the men's division?
Men's side, okay.
I see Sam Little down at 23.
Yeah, he was great,
low.
but he was too low from the jump.
Ooh, Fairfax at 33. Fairfax was awesome at nationals.
Yeah. I mean, then there's guys.
There's Adam Reese at 35. Players, Adam Reese was great.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, you're kind of having to go outside the top 25 to find players, but I mean, I don't know. Michael Ing, 25th. He was fantastic all season. Otherwise, I think that a lot of this was pretty accurate. I mean, is there a case to be made that Henry Ing at 9 was actually an overperformer?
Yeah, I think he overperformed 9. I would agree with that. I don't know if I'd say biggest overperformer, but definitely had a very good nationals.
You feel like Jeff Babbitt at 3 underperformed?
Not to me, no. But you might get different opinions from other people on that. We didn't mention Micah Glass. Micah Glass, maybe.
He wasn't even ranked, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah, big snub. How about the women's side?
Well, speaking of not even getting a vote, and I think people would change their tune now. How about Kirsten Johnson from Fury?
Oh God, yeah,
showing out at nationals. That's a big one to me. I would also say Sarah Jacobson was 31st in our total rankings. Had a monster nationals.
Finney at 21 outperformed that number for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I know this maybe sounds self-serving for this pod, but our producer Lindsay Sue at 13, I thought played better than that.
Definitely outperformed that number also. We got some interesting ones. I mean, wait till the awards come out. You're gonna get the hard numbers on this.
That's true. Flor Coulartz, really liked the way she played. 18, maybe that's about right. Yeah. That's why we like nationals. You got to go out there and show up and perform. Tough. And a lot of times it's not about the individual skill of players. It's about like how the team is meshing, especially when you're looking at a lot of these offensively dominant players. It can be challenging when things aren't clicking, and like makes you look bad, even if it's not really your fault. It's just like the way that things are working as the unit. All right. I think that's it. Do we have anything else in the show? I think that's it.
No, I
We are going to be doing some Nationals superlatives for our subscriber bonus segment out the back that we'll be doing live in the Discord in just a few minutes. So sign up today. Great day to sign up for an Ulti-World subscription. You get CCC Masters coming up live streaming. Plus, join the Discord. Get the deep look out the back bonus segments. And get ready for the college season. And hey, catch up on any of the national championships that you didn't get a chance to watch. So much video coverage from the year, and you get access to all of it with an Ulti-World standard or all access subscription. Don't forget, we've got another interview coming up next week. We are very excited to be talking to Cree Howard and Anna Thompson from Champions San Francisco Fury. We're going to have to record that one ahead of time because of work schedule stuff. So that's why they'll be on with us next week. And we will see you then. We'll talk Masters. We'll talk CCC. We'll have Cree and Anna on. A lot of fun. For Keith Trainer, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. Go vote, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Sorry for the audio.